Hi Sagittarius, welcome to Yellow Cardinal Tarot with me. My name is Carol, and Sagittarius, this is going to be a general reading for you, and there's no date on the reading because I trust that when it comes into your feed, it's meant for you. And so in today's reading, we're going to be looking at where fear is showing up in your life. We're going to be doing a reading called Conquer Your Fears, and I think that because of, what kind of world we're living in right now, I think there's a lot of fear that's being triggered in all of us. And oftentimes it's going to show up in different ways in your body and in your thoughts. And it's just one of those emotions that creates a lot of tension in your body. I know for myself, a few weeks ago, I had this incredible amount of tension. And for me, it showed up as paralysis, right? It was just so stressed out and wanting to do something and felt quite hopeless. And so it can really affect everything that we do. And we often try to push down our fear and we try to block it and pretend that we can carry on and, wait for it to just leave our system. And so I thought that I would look at in this reading, where is fear showing up in your life? And then I want to look at how you're blocking your own fear. And then what's really important is I want to look at the origin of your fear, because there is fear out there for sure, and it's causing us to feel it. But what we have to realize is that it's triggering our own fear. And so there's something in our system that needs to heal in regards to fear. There's fear around it. And so we're going to look at that. And then we're going to finally ask the tarot for some guidance as to how you can begin to release this fear. All right. And so in today's reading, I'm going to be using the Curious Travels deck. I'm also going to be clarifying it with the Radiant Rider-Waite deck. And so let's begin. I'm going to put you on speed dial while I set up your reading. Yes. Where's the fear showing up in your life? We start off with the King of Pentacles. And the King is our masculine side. We have a masculine side and a feminine side. It has nothing to do with your gender. The King is our masculine self. And it's our ego. And so you start off with your ego as where's fear showing up in your life? Now the ego, our own ego, is an extremely scared part. It's petrified of all sorts of emotions. It's petrified of your own healing journey that you're on. It's very much interested in keeping the status quo. And our ego self is a part of us that protected us when we were younger. It really kept us safe. And most importantly, it was a part that kept us safe because it kept us up in our head. Because when traumatic things happened to us when we were younger, we couldn't handle those big emotions. And so what happens is your ego kicks in and it brings you up in your head. It basically dissociates you when you're younger, takes you out of your body. This is the King of Pentacles, and the Pentacles talks about the body. And we have to be in our body to feel our emotions. And if we're not in our body, if we're up in our head, then we can't do the healing. And a lot of people think that they are healing and they're up in their head because they're petrified to go in the body. And it's the ego that definitely is the part that's scared and doesn't want you to get back in your body and feel those emotions. And so that's what's blocking you, right? That's where the fear is showing up right now, is your ego in particular. And as I said, I kind of went ahead of myself, but I said that the ego is very much afraid of your healing, the healing journey that you're on. We're all on this healing journey because the healing journey is really a journey back to self and finding out your true, authentic self and who you really are underneath all of this trauma and, the memories and the emotions from childhood and everything that happened to us. And we're coming back to ourself here. And your ego self is blocking your healing journey, blocking you from healing. And like I said, it doesn't want you to get back in your body. And then you have the Emperor card in reverse that comes up. In an upright position, the Emperor is actually the fourth card in the major arcana. It's a real solid square, that, figure, almost like he's sitting in this square chair made of cement, and he's been there for so long. He's part of the major arcana, and he represents the masculine energy as well. And so it's very important that you realize you have, for where your fear is showing up, you have two bookends, two masculine, strong masculine bookends that are doing everything in their power to keep you from healing in your body. And this particular one, I look at it as it's almost like a father-like figure, the Emperor. And I call him Mr. Emperor because, he really demands a lot of respect. He represents the rules of society. I mean, look at him. He's got this, he rules this world behind him. He knows that he doesn't have to move. It's like he's set these rules, he's written them in stone, and they're there for you to follow. And he knows that he doesn't even have to move because, you're going to listen to those rules of society that you've always, listened to and always followed. It's in reverse here. And so I think that because it's in reverse, I don't think you realize how much you have been sort of living by these rules that you were taught when you were younger by society. We just kind of picked them up through, the schools, maybe the kids that we go to at school when we were younger, where what was normal, what wasn't normal. And you're kind of living by that. You're still living by these rules of society. And what's most important to know about that is they're not your rules. And I think that's why it's coming in reverse here, because it's like, you need to turn this around and say, well, what rules are you living by here? Like, what is this? What is this masculine, your ego self? What is it continuing to tell you about, your healing journey, and that you're on? Obviously, you're on, or the healing that you need to do. Because there's a real scared part there that's blocking you, that's preventing you from touching your emotions. And healing is all about feeling your emotions. There is no other way that you can heal but to feel your emotions. And so we're going to go to this part over here, is how are you blocking this fear? So you have this ego self. We already know that is a very scared part of you that's out. And how are you blocking this fear that wants to come out? So you have this scared part, first of all, and then you've got this fear that's coming up in you. And so it's like this really fearful part that's blocking this fear coming up in you. And so how are you blocking it? Well, this Seven of Swords cards comes in. And if you look at this, I'm going to say it's a wolf. This is called the Thief card. And notice how these 5 swords that are hanging over his head, it's like he's very much in his head. The sword suit is our mental energy. It's our mental thoughts. It's those things that we tell ourselves. It's those things that we learned from childhood. It's those things that we learn from society that we continue to tell ourselves over and over and over in our head. And that's what you're doing. You're very much in your head. And what do I mean by that? You're literally stuck up here in your mind. And I can see that. It's like, this is where you live from your neck up. And your ego is preventing you from going into this body and really try to ground into your body. When we are very much stuck in our head with these mental thoughts that people gave us when we were younger, told us, we're very much living in fear. Very much living in fear. And also I see that you, and because of that, because you're very much in your head, I can see that you're dealing with a lot of hopelessness here. This is my card of hopelessness. And this individual, it's your 5 of Cups. And this individual is focusing on those 3 cups that have tipped over and they spilled, and not noticing these other 2 that are here. And look at this beautiful water that's flowing. Whenever there's water in my cards, it represents emotions. And your emotions are meant to flow. But what's happening is here, you're stuck on hopelessness. You're stuck on hopelessness. We're not meant to get stuck on hopelessness. I can't tell you how many, I hear when people are diagnosed with depression. Yes, you can fall into depression, but it doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. And I know myself, I've gone in it and out and in it and out. And I think I've lived all my life in this almost this low grade kind of depressive state that I didn't even know I was in. And still until I really started, digging deeply, intensively into my own healing to find out that, I was very hopeless. And so I think what's happening is, and what you need to realize is that we can often sit in our hopelessness. Hopelessness itself is not necessarily an emotion. It's something that will block. It blocks these other emotions behind it, like grief and fear. And we use it. We sit in that. We get stuck in that because we don't want to go further and feel those other things, those other emotions that are behind it. And then you have your Queen of Pentacles, which is your last card, and about how you are blocking this. The Queen is our feminine side. I talked about the masculine side, the ego, and now we're getting to the feminine side. And this Queen, she has the pentacle in her hand. She loves the body, right? I said that the pentacle represents the body. The feminine part of us feels all her emotions. She lives in her body. And so this Queen card, this Queen of Pentacles comes around as saying that, she's also blocked. Your feminine side, that part of you that feels, that lives in their body, is blocked. And you're doing that. You're keeping it all blocked by keeping yourself up in your head and spinning on these mental thoughts that you always tell yourself. And so what is the origin of this fear? Where is this fear, this incredible fear that this ego self does not want you to get into, that you're blocking with your depression? Where is it coming from? Well, we're going to look at your unconscious. We're going to look at that part of you that you don't see, that part of you that you pushed away, that you repressed when you were younger, when you were a young child or an adolescent. And so we start off with the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. And then we're clarifying it by the Tower. And so these two cards came out together as your main cards for your origin of fear. First card is the Nine of Pentacles in reverse. And the Nine of Pentacles speaks about deciding that you really are going to commit to something. Like realizing what's important in your life. This is in your shadow. This is in your unconscious, the stuff you put away. You had a hard time. It's in reverse. You had a hard time deciding what was important in your life. I think you were, I keep hearing that, you didn't have these parents or parent or the parenting that was needed to allow you to see what's important in your life, right? And I think that a part of you really gave up about what was important. And because there's this Tower moment that comes in here. I mean, I don't know if you know what this Tower moment is, but there's something that happened to you when you're younger. It could be one event. It could be a series of events when you were younger. But this changed the course for you. There's something here that changed the course. It has something to do with this where, coming from probably a childhood that was not supportive and not a childhood that could really, not with parents that really allowed you to see what was important in your life. And I think there's a part of you that really gave up when you were younger. And this is where this depression is coming from. I didn't say this earlier, but depression, believe it or not, is not about now. And I know I never wanted to hear that from my own therapist. But when we get in these bouts of depression, this hopelessness, when we sit in it for days and can't get off the couch, I know what that feels like. And the last thing that I wanted to hear was, it's not about now. It's about the time when you were a child, when things happened to you and you had no way out. you had no one to turn to. And I think that was your situation where you didn't see, what was important to you in your life. You weren't giving that opportunity. And I think when your depression comes up, that's where it's blocking. It's first of all, it's coming up from your childhood, and it's also used to block your fear. There was some great fear when you were younger. I mean, you have this tower moment, which tells me there's something that was very traumatic for you when you were younger that happened. And because of this trauma that happened to you when you were younger, I mean, when you have a tower sitting in your unconscious here, that's trauma. And right behind it is the Two of Pentacles. Look at this juggler. He's trying to kind of like juggle these two pentacles. This is a card of multitasking when it's really a lot of times, and it's also a card that tells me that you're very ungrounded. When you were younger, you became very ungrounded after this tower, which meant that your ego took you out of your body, because that's how it protected you and kept you safe when you were younger and put you in your head. We stay in our head, even as adults, because that's safe for us. We don't have to touch our emotions when we're in our head. And then the last card that comes in for you when you were younger in your shadow, in your unconscious, is the Nine of Cups. This individual, this is the 9. It's not the 10. Remember, there are 10 cards. There are 10 pip cards in every suit. And cups are all about our emotions. And so he's like lined up all his cups, the 9 of Cups, right? And he's crossed his arms and he's like, nah, I'm done with my emotions. I'm done feeling. No thanks. But there's one cup left. You haven't hit the 10. Remember, the 10 of Cups is that rainbow of emotions, right, that we have. And that means, we have access to all our emotions. But he stopped at 9 and it's like, no thanks. And so when you were younger, when this tower moment came in, you definitely went up in your head and gave up on emotions, not feeling. There was something that said, no, I can't feel anymore. They're dangerous. Emotions are really dangerous. And that's why you have this King of Pentacles out right now. Because like I said, the masculine part of us, the ego, is petrified of emotions. Emotions are dangerous. Doesn't want to go there. You learned at a very young age not to touch your fear. And so I think you learned also that, we're going to cover it up with depression. And so where does the advice from the tarot? What is the advice from the tarot? You have the Justice card coming in here, and it's in reverse, but in an upright position. The Justice card speaks about this this individual really trying to get some balance in her life. And she's and you got this sword at the top, which is the most important, which is just as important as bringing balance. There is very much a need here for you to get to justice in your life. The sword speaks about the sword of truth, the sword of authenticity. And I think that you need to get back to who you are. And maybe there's some justice that needs to come out here. Maybe, in finding out, what is this tower moment for you? What happened to you that you got, that you can't touch your fear, and that you're not allowed to touch your fear? Why is your ego so scared of this big emotion? And the universe wants you to turn that upright and start to search for and look for your truth, because right now it's buried. I mean, I don't even think there's a part of you that realizes that your authentic self is buried here in your unconscious. That is where our true self is, right? It's not what we see right now. That's not our true self. The person we are now is not our true self. We have to do some healing to get back to that, our true self. And here's the Star card that at the beginning, the first line said you need to get back to the healing, but it's being blocked right now. And then you have the King of Cups coming up after the Justice. And King again is our ego self, but this time it's the King of Cups. King of Cups and emotions. King doesn't like emotions. And so I think that you need to realize here that You know, your ego self will block you, will continue to block you, and you have to work with your ego self. I do that by journaling from my own ego and what it's saying. And things like I'll write in my journal, I write, you can't go here. You're not going towards this emotion. You're not allowed to feel this emotion. And I write because that's what it's telling me. It's so scared, this part. It's saying, don't go there. Don't you dare go there. And I write what it's saying because it needs a voice. Your ego self needs a voice, and I journal from that. It's a part of you. And the last card that comes in, and it's advice from the tarot again as to how you can begin to release this. And so I think that the devil comes in kind of here in a sideways position. And the devil card always refers to, except if it's in your shadow, but normally it refers to, look at these two individuals that are chained by this devil, just chained, and they're like these attachments that this card represents, attachments that we get stuck to. And I often say it's my addiction card because there are so many things out there. I mean, you had the Two of Pentacles. Well, the juggler who came out in your shadow, but it's like a distracted part of us. There's so many things that we use in this world that we can use to keep ourselves in our head, right? To keep ourselves distracted. And that's what the ego does. And I think that's why it came out right before this card, was because you have to be aware that it's your ego self that's going to keep on trying to block you by keeping you all caught up in your addictions. And addictions, and that's why it's sideways, because I think, maybe you're aware of them and maybe you're not, and maybe you need to become aware of them. I don't sit here and go, you got to stop your addictions. I was never told that myself with my own therapist. But my addictions, I became more aware of my addictions. And so they didn't have that hold on me, that grip on me that they always had. Once I started to heal more and more and more, then I didn't need them to shove down the pain, right? And that's exactly what addictions are. They just keeps the pain away. And so I think you need to see how you're trying to keep that pain away with some addictions as well. And that's one way that you can start to release some of the fear that's coming up in your system, and looking at what that Tower moment is as well. And so I'm going to leave you with a playlist on fear. And I want you to have compassion for yourself, Sagittarius, for what you're working through. This is definitely the healing journey. Healing yourself is the most difficult journey, but it's the most important one. So take care, and I'll talk soon. Bye.